Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com. I'm a big believer that styles make fights and nothing else. I think it's a mistake to look at rankings and to reach a conclusion that because one fighter is ranked higher than the other fighter, that necessarily that fighter would beat the lower ranked competition. I think the truth is much more complicated than that. I think it really is based on what the fighters can do skill wise, what their knowledge base is in the sport, and just where they are at a particular point in their careers. Now, this video is an outside the box video. It's for fight fans who are willing to consider very long shot plays that might match up well given the styles. For those who saw the heavyweight who I consider to be the best heavyweight out there right now, and that's Vitali Klitschko, the older brother. For those who saw Vitali Klitschko against Chris Arreola, the nightmare Arreola, think back to that fight and think about what Arreola did wrong, right? Arreola came inside, he was standing upright, didn't have head movement. Vitali is very accurate. Vitali was able to almost decapitate Arreola. It's only because Arreola is a relatively young man who hasn't taken a lot of punishment in the past that Arreola was able to take those blows. Keep in mind Arreola's prior history. Arreola had been knocked down earlier by Travis Walker. I understand Walker hits hard, but Arreola's fights tend to descend into shootouts where he takes heavy punches. In fact, even his last punch against Brian Minto, I thought Arreola got hit. Now, just imagine what Arreola could have done to be more effective. Just imagine if Arreola actually had more defense, could get inside rather than walk straight in. He could literally get inside with his hands up, parrying the blows from Vitali Klitschko so that Klitschko wouldn't be able to hit him flush. Then, if Arreola was a master counterpuncher, while inside, Arreola could have put his head up on Vitali's chest, kind of like Evander Holyfield did against Mike Tyson uh, almost a generation ago, more than 10 years ago, right? Put his head on Vitali's chest and start to counter Vitali in such a way that Vitali would have a hard time finding him, right? Because I believe the secret to fighting Vitali Klitschko is that if you fight Klitschko in the middle of the ring, where Klitschko has an opportunity to use length, he's 6'7.5". When he's able to lean, it's very hard to hit him. If you give Vitali Klitschko a chance to use length and to pot shot you in the middle of the ring, then you have no chance of winning that fight. However, if you are able to get inside on Vitali Klitschko and literally force him to move, because what's the weak part of Vitali's game? I would say it's foot movement. He's relatively stationary. He's not as much of a mover as his brother, Vladimir Klitschko, right? Vitali's foot speed isn't the worst, but it's not the best. So my point is, if you get inside on Vitali and force him to create space between you and him, if he has to think about creating space between the two of you, if you can operate on the inside, I believe you might be able to have some success on Vitali Klitschko. Also, fans of Lennox Lewis know that if you're able to time that straight right hand from distance, right, that's another way to deal with Vitali Klitschko. And Lennox Lewis started to do it later in their fight before it got stopped on cuts. then you might be able to have some success on Vitali Klitschko. I think another key component is if you're able to move away from Vitali Klitschko, if you have a foot speed advantage on Vitali Klitschko, and the Herbie Hyde crowd knows that before Herbie Hyde got blown out early in their fight, Hyde actually made for an intriguing fight. That fight's up on YouTube. Hyde made for an intriguing fight with movement. Then you have an opportunity to score some points on Vitali Klitschko. Now, Evander Holyfield is well past his prime. Evander Holyfield has a big problem with skilled counterpunchers, right? Two of his worst fights were fights against James Toney and a fight against Larry Donald. The James Toney fight was particularly disturbing. Holyfield got completely dismantled in that fight. In fact, I would argue that is the worst Evander Holyfield has ever looked in his life. But the question is Vitali Klitschko that type of fighter? Keep in mind, I consider Klitschko to be the best. But is he the kind of fighter who would put Holyfield in the position that Holyfield was put in against James Toney and against Larry Donald? And Larry Donald, very fleet of foot, moves around the ring in a manner in which Vitali Klitschko doesn't move around the ring, kept Holyfield on the end of a jab that he threw while moving. I would argue that James Toney's fight style and Larry Donald's fight style is different than Vitali Klitschko's fight style. Now, hear what I'm saying carefully. I am not predicting that Evander Holyfield pulls the upset over Vitali Klitschko if the two meet. What I am predicting is that Holyfield is likely to be a huge underdog. Think 8-1, 9-1, 10-1. And the point I'm making is simply, I believe Holyfield would have a much greater chance than that to win this fight. While Vitali Klitschko should be favored in the fight, Holyfield should be, in my opinion, no more than a 2-1 underdog, right? Because Holyfield knows how to fight. If you look at his record, I know people are saying, why is he still fighting? Understand that the fight he had against Francois Botha, I'm making this the day after that fight, was the first fight Holyfield has had since his 2008 fight against Nikolai Valuev. Not only that, if you look at Holyfield's fight record, you'll see he actually has hardly fought recently. You'll also see that Holyfield actually does well against taller fighters with more limited foot speed. Take a look at his fight against Lou Savarese, and of course we all remember his fight against Nikolai Valuev. He won that fight and got robbed. If you look at the scoring, it's not a unanimous decision, it's a majority decision. One judge had that fight a draw. Another judge had Valuev winning that fight by 1 round. Quite frankly, it is Evander Holyfield's blueprint against Valuev that David Haye followed to beat Valuev in their later fight. So I believe Holyfield has the foot movement and has the skills to get inside and has the skills to put his head on Vitali Klitschko's chest to make the fight a much more competitive fight than the odds makers are likely to make it. Even if you're taking a guy who only has one chance in three, and that's what a 2-1 spread is. Even if you're taking a guy who only has one chance in three to beat the favorite opponent, understand that if they're going to give you 9-1 or 10-1 odds, then that's a bet you need to look at because that's your classic value play. I believe Evander Holyfield, for hardcore, very high risk-taking types, is worth a look if he ever fights Vitali Klitschko. Okay, and remember, this video is really limited to Vitali Klitschko. I'm not talking about Vladimir Klitschko. I just believe Holyfield might be a value play against Vitali Klitschko. Let me know what you think. Visit us at gamblersadvisory.com. And of course, leave your comments for me here on YouTube. Thanks for watching.